Hi guys, Natalie here. John's in the comments already. Great to see you back, Marty. Everyone's buzzing for you. So I'm going to let you go for it, Marty. I'm going to let you go for it. Tell us a bit about yourself. Obviously, like John said, you're back on the show. And then obviously we're just going to talk about NWSL. Because for me, I'm a fan, and I see it, and I see a lot of people compare it to the WSL and which one's better and this and that. And I'm not keen on that, but I do want to learn about it. I want to know about trades. I want to know about the drafts and which team is better. And if it's draft system, how is a team better? How is Portland, say, the best team? So just tell us a bit about yourself. We can go on to all that kind of stuff.
Okay, hi, my name is Marty, and I live in the United States. I'm a huge women's soccer fan, and I met Nat because Tobin Heath went from the U.S. to play for Manchester United women's team. And we became friends, and I enjoy Manchester United women, but I follow the NWSL, and I root for the Houston Dash, actually. I used to root for the Portland Thorns, but then they did not protect Tobin Heath, and she has no team, and so I started rooting for Houston because I like Kristen Mwsl and I like Rachel Daly, and I really like the fact that they, won the Challenge Cup, and they were a team that had no national teamers on it at that time. So I just thought that they are one of these, they fight. They just fight so hard. I mean, sometimes it's against things, but they fight so hard. And no, Portland's not the best team, frankly. So they're number one at the moment, and they have the most points. They're leading with 29 points, and they've played 14 games. So they're one behind Orlando and Chicago. I actually wrote stuff down so that way I could talk about it. Yes, I agree. Yeah. They did not treat Tobin fair. I agree with that.
So I'm a fan. What I want you to do, Marty, is talk to me about it. So you're saying they're not the best team, but that is, I think from a UK point of view, that's sort of what's portrayed to us, that they are the best team. Maybe it's because of the fans and everything, and it looks great. Yeah. But they are sort of portrayed as the best team.
They they have an atmosphere that it's like they will pop in 20K people every match. They have an excellent history on women's soccer, which is what we call it here. Sorry, but that's what we call it. And they are continued. University of Portland is a great churner for national teamers, Canadian and American. Rapinoe went there, Sinclair went there. So they've won national championships, and they're just really, that area is huge, and a lot of people are just, and they have great owners. They have really good owners. In the U.S., it's really the ownership. If the ownership is crap, eventually the team just becomes crap because they don't treat their players well, they don't treat their fans well, and they just have an excellent camaraderie. North Carolina is a fabulous team, has excellent talent, and is usually the one that pulls the shields year after year. They have Paul Riley as their head coach, and they have, I'm not sure if they have the most national teamers, but in our case, the way the NWSL runs is it's very much parity. Because honestly, the way the United States is set up is if there's only one team that wins everything all the time, everybody hates you, okay? So you're either loved very well or you're hated very well. So in order to get fans and keep interest, they basically, Has plays for them, and she's an awesome player. But right now they're second. They're hunting down Portland right now. The courage.
Talk to me. Parity is a word that you picked up on. So, but like you say, it seems like it is always, like you said, the courage. North Carolina are up there, has plays for them. Portland are probably up there a lot. Whereas you probably then see Chicago,
top three.
Yeah, but then you probably see, well, we know about it through Skinner, Orlando. They're sort of middle rank and probably near the bottom a lot.
Well, they started out really well. Okay. Then they started losing a little bit. Then there was the whole thing about Mark Skinner in terms of him I'm sorry, but in my opinion, he bailed on him. Okay. Not that he didn't have good reason, but he bailed on him. And so now they have a university, I think it's Central Florida. I could be wrong on this, but she headed the women's soccer team in Central Florida. And we have an excellent route in terms of let's see, what you have club play, you know, the youth, the club play. What we have is we have the university system. Because of Title IX, which happened back in the 70s, okay, that means that you got to treat women the same way as you treat men's in the athletics and NCAA, you know, the National Collegiate Athletic Association is what NCAA stands for. Because you have to treat them the same, and women don't play football and they don't play a lot of the men's sports like they, you know, wrestling and stuff like that. So soccer is one thing where the women can really shine. So they had to put a lot of money for every buck that goes into football, okay, which there's a lot of money in it. You have to put into soccer. Your old Lucy Bronze went to UNC. Rachel Daly was up in New York. Russo was at UNC. Amy T was up in Hofstra. Okay, she was up in Hofstra. So you have a lot of international players who play in the United States for college, okay, and they get the training, they get the teaching, they get the techniques down, they practice in that, and then they go back and they go into leagues, whether it be the NWSL, whether it be WFC, you know, WSL, whether it be over in Sweden or I don't know what the German league is called. Is it Bundesliga?
Fran Bundesliga, yeah.
Right. So, you know, so pretty much the United States collegiate system is really doing a very good turn for the girls, you know, in terms of in soccer and development. So that's going, you know, very, very well for everybody. The reason we like parity, and even football, even our U.S. football teams, the NFL, they like parity is because it gives teams like in the WSL, it would be like Villa, Aston Villa, and what's the other one? Birmingham is always a little bit lower, right? It would give them the opportunity to go up, okay, to be more fair. You won't have the Chelseas. You won't have the Man City. You won't have the, you know, you just won't have the top things. You won't have that being written in stone. It'll be almost, it's not that the North Carolina Courage can't win every year because they have good, solid players, and then they get the others to come in. They get the, you know, the supporting staff, but it makes sure that the other ones still have a chance. So it becomes a dogfight as opposed to they just have to show up and play. Okay. Portland has the support for the fans. Now they have really good players, but they also in the draft, they gave a lot away to get Sophia Smith. Sophia Smith was somebody they really wanted. They had identified her when she was coming into college, and they gave a lot away. So whereas right now they have Sophia Smith, all those draft picks that they gave away in terms of future draft picks will sort of bear fruit later on, is the idea. The other thing they did when they started the league is they split up all the national teamers. It's all like, okay, let's make sure every team has a couple of ringers on it. And that allows them to develop. The problem is once they get going, Carly Lloyd used to be in the Houston Dash. Morgan Bryan used to be on the Houston Dash. Okay. They both end up leaving. Okay. So to the point where Houston Dash had no national teamers except for, you know, international. They have the most Canadians on it. They have Rachel Daly on it. You know, now they have two national teamers because they have Christy Mwsl and Jane Campbell. But before for them to get the Challenge Cup was really huge. You know, it was great. I think it's more or less like, it's not like everybody says it's like, well, NWSL is the best. And then everybody, the WSL is, you know, like pounding on those people who say that. Or you say that WSL is best. I think it's just different styles of game for different tastes. Okay. And I don't think that's a bad thing. You know, when you play a sport and you want to master that sport, you want to experience every nuance and you want to add it to your game. whether it be, the hard tackles, the quick feet, the fierceness of the competition, the mind games people play. Okay. You just want to experience everything of it, so,
Yeah. So talk to me about like how because a lot of then potentially, in England, we'll say it's a lot based around the US women national players and they get everything and the rest of the players are maybe ignored. Like you say, how did it end up that if it was supposed to be everyone's supposed to have a national team player, how does, say, like you said, Dash end up with, no, now they've built it up, but they were players probably that were there and then they've joined the roster kind of.
Well, they've been, the national NWSL has been there for 10 years. Okay. So it's not a newborn. Okay. Let's say. And so therefore, as it keeps going on, that's where you end up with the trades or the desires. And like Crystal Dunn started with the Spirit. I don't know if she started with the Spirit, but she was with the Washington Spirit. Then she left the Washington Spirit, went to North Carolina Courage. But while she was at the Spirit, she met her husband, her future husband at the time. Okay. They got married. All right. He took a job in Portland. All right. And she was in North Carolina. Now, there's a 3,500, probably more than that, but the 3,500-mile difference between where North Carolina is and where Portland is. Okay. And it's only probably about a 5 to 6 hour flight because it's like the Northwest versus the Southeast. Okay. I mean, you're going from opposite ends of the country. So after a couple of years, they were like, she asked for a trade. She's like, hey, I really want to trade. I'd actually like to live in the same state as my husband, So she got the trade. At the same time, Becky Sauerbrunn started with Kansas City, okay, way back when it first started, okay? And, it's very shortly after it first started. And then Kansas City moved to Salt Lake City, Utah. They moved to Utah. And because they were bringing a new team into a new city, all right, they wanted to have some stability. So they asked her to stay. Now, she also lives in Portland, okay, and has a long-term, has a partner there and everything. And so she was like, okay, I will do it, but I really would like a trade eventually. And so they were honoring that request. And this happened around the same time as the expansion draft was going up for Racing Louisville. Okay, Racing, it's like RC, Racing City, Louisville. Okay, so either way, and that's when they had the whole thing about, that they didn't protect Tobin Heath and they didn't protect Kristen Press, and Racing Louisville owns their rights. And the last one I heard was that Angel City, which is the LA team, is trying to get Kristen Press, but Racing Louisville keeps upping the price. So it's like every time they offer something, Racing Louisville is like, no, we want it. We want more, So I think they may both end up in San Diego.
Yeah. What do you think then of where they're going to end up then, Tobin and Kristen? I mean, that's they were with us. Obviously, they left. Where do you think they're going to end up? Because it was always this talk of Angel City, but now I'm seeing a lot of negativity in a way around Angel City because a lot of people are saying it's not really like planned out, whereas San Diego, they got Jill Ellis, they got Casey, there's a plan, there's a structure there. Whereas
they've got somebody running it. Oh, I can't remember. It'll come to me, but she's sharp. She's actually, I think it's she went back to law school, and I'm thinking she's British. I'm thinking she's from the reason I know is because she's from the English national team, England. She's from England. The England national team that she won the World Cup bronze. It begins with an O. It's very long. I thought they hired her.
Oh, Eni Aluko, yeah.
Yeah. She went back and got her degree. Yeah. Thank you, Emma. So, it's and she's sharp. She impresses the hell out of me. She is sharp. I think that Angel City is a little. I wish them well, but anybody who has that many owners, okay, you got to figure out who's going to have the voting rights, because you got Lauren Cheney owning part of it. You've got a couple actresses, Natalie Portman. You've got Serena Williams. Her husband, her daughter owns part of it. She's like the youngest owner,
And he wasn't great at Villa.
Who, what?
And he wasn't great at Villa. Aluko.
Oh, I'm sorry. I only know her from England, from the England national team, because I didn't follow the WSL back then. And she was fabulous. She worked her tail off in that World Cup. When you guys took the bronze, because I watched every game of that.
But yeah, I agree with you, Marty, about
so they have that. Yeah, they put in Jill Ellis. Jill Ellis pickpocketed from the U.S. Soccer, and she got the logistics officer there, who's awesome. And she's got Casey. So but they don't have a stadium yet. They haven't identified their stadium. Whereas Angel City has the stadium. They've got Aluko, but they don't have anything else. And we're not seeing where. So they got time. It'll be fine.
Swings and rounds about. Yeah.
You got
NWSL.
I disagree with
like
that.
Hard tackles.
I disagree with
tell
that.
You why.
You have to understand, soccer is a poor relation when it comes to sports in the United States.
But I don't know
relation.
if you saw that thread, and it was all these tackles.
Oh yeah.
And it was Amy Turner.
I had no problem with it. No problem with it.
Yeah, good. It was Amy Turner, and she was doing a Amy Turner style.
It was a classic. It was a classic. Amy Turner, just like and I loved it. And she, it was. She
got loads of abuse.
There's just
People said it should have been a red card.
I don't understand who the hell was complaining about it. I don't get it. I truly don't. But they don't.
I think it was some of the players.
They are trying to get people who don't normally watch a professional soccer match to watch. Okay, there are more people in the United States who watch women's soccer than watch men's soccer, and you can't say that's the same in England, in the UK. You cannot say that. Okay, in the United States, the women's national team will drive the ratings up and will put butts in the seats, and those are the two things you need for a professional league. You need television ratings so that they could sell it, and you need butts in the seats, so that way when they show it, they could see that people are willing to pay money to show up at the stadium and not just sit at home on their butts to watch it. And that's really the key. And those are always the two determining factors. Like Reggie Jackson, he was a famous baseball player. He got a contract to move to the Yankees. And one of the stipulations he said is above a certain number of ticket sales, he got $5 for I think it was $5, but he got a percentage of every ticket above that number. And he made buku bucks off of that, because that's what they want. They want butts in the seats.
Jackie, and I think Jackie might not say it, but I think he's from Scotland, and he says he loves watching it late in the morning. And I love watching it on Twitch. And what game did I watch the other day? I watched Racing Louisville versus Gotham. I think it was
Gotham. Had to be Gotham.
Yeah.
They have a good striker. Ooh, she's sweet. And she has a name I can't pronounce either.
Ebony.
No, Ebony's racing. I'm talking about Gotham.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It's I think I wrote it down.
I don't know who got. Oh, and another player who I really like, Trinity Rodman. Is she on
Rodman. She's a Spirit. Boston Spirit. Yeah, she is Dennis Rodman's daughter. So.
She is amazing. So there's a lot of young talent, isn't there? There's a lot of young talent in the NWSL. There's
honestly,
Emily Fox.
I don't understand what the hype is about Sophia Smith, because I look at Rodman and I look at a couple of the others. Did you see Emily Fox? Emily Fox is awesome. Yeah. She is awesome.
Oh,
she's just freaking
this is
awesome.
your girl,
She runs like the wind. Yeah, that's it. Onumanu. Yeah. Yes.
Onumanu.
Awesome. Gotham. She is like swift, and she's like calculating as she comes through. she's it's surprising. And we have great keepers. Did you see who's it? Bella Bixby. That's why they traded Addie French, is because Bella Bixby is behind her. And goalkeepers, it's all like you can't, you have your one goalkeeper, and it's not like you're going to switch goalkeepers up. So, but Bella Bixby's ready, and she is really hot. The other thing that they had is Barney was retiring. She was going to retire, and then because they moved from Utah back to Kansas City, she came out of retirement because they needed it. So they really needed a goalkeeper. The other thing is Addie French is from Kansas, so she's familiar with the area, so it's a little bit happier.
So Emma's just said about Adumanu. I was saying wanted to, about Adumanu, and I think there are, like you say, Trinity, Emily Fox, Adumanu, really even Ebony, even though Ebony's English, Ebony, I would have her up as there.
She's having a blast at Louisville.
Yeah.
I mean, she is. See her, she just looks happy. She just looks like it's like this is like a free for all, and she's in a playground. Yeah.
And then you talked about Sophia Smith. That's the one I haven't heard of. I've just heard of the ones that I've said.
Oh no, she's the one who had all the props. She's the one who had all the the marquee status in terms of Portland. Like basically sold the farm to get Sophia Smith number one in the draft this year, and they had to trade up. What happens is you get your slot based upon your finish from the year before. So if you finish in last place, you get first pick. Okay, it reverses. Okay. All right. So if you win, like North Carolina Courage, you get last place. That's why in North Carolina Courage, you'll see a lot of international players, because they fill a lot of spaces with international players because their draft picks are so low. And the talent in the U.S. is very, very high, but you still always have that cream of the crop space, and then it drops, and it's not that they're not good, but in comparison, it's a huge distance, Emma,
I don't know if she means Adumanu is the follow-up from Malpew. I don't know what she means there.
And there was a trade. Malpew left Gotham to go to Chicago because I think it's a boyfriend thing. Okay, she was dating somebody, or she's closer to home. I can't remember, but it definitely had to do with a living situation in terms of where she wanted to be. And they ended up with Adumanu. They ended up with a couple others. That's how Paige Nielsen ended up getting switched around down to Orlando.
I just want to say hi to Dennis.
They just lost the damn ball and they were pissed.
Yeah,
okay?
That's what we say.
It's not really the tackles. I mean, to hear an American talk about that they're complaining about the quality of the tackle in terms of being too hard. It's like, like you don't watch NFL on Sundays. Give me a break. It's not,
well, that's what they were saying. And it was the players. It was the players, because I don't know which team they were playing. It must have been Portland. No, I don't know who they were playing. Orlando, but I think they won that game. I think it was. I can't remember, but
Orlando's had a couple of ties recently, which has been
so
pretty good.
But Portland, it was the one before that.
They were leading 1-0 in the last match.
Yeah, it was versus Chicago, and Chicago players were complaining about Amy Turner's tackles. That's what I
that's just crap.
And it was
crap. But they were complaining. But you know what? The hardest tackle that they have, one of their hardest tacklers, is the national teamer. Is Ertz. Okay, Julie Ertz. I mean, she just crushes people. So all they were doing were complaining. And they don't have, the only thing that I think that they should do is they should have a brief break, especially with World Cup and Olympics, because you are having, like the Houston Dash went without Rachel Daly for 2 months because England didn't want her to go back and forth, mainly because of COVID. I mean, there was reason for it, but they didn't want to go back and forth. And so they're like, she's going to stay here. She's going to practice here. And then we're going to the Olympics, and you can have her after the Olympics. And the Houston Dash are like, okay, we got to deal with that. We got to put up with it. So what happens is a lot of times they still don't have most of the Canadians back. And Kristen Mwsl is, she's not back. A lot of the national teamers aren't back yet. Rapinoe showed up, but they have their when they have to go back, but then they have a negotiation period in terms of being an allowance to sort of say, okay, yeah, you can have a couple more days to relax type thing.
Well, when I had Rich Lafferty on and we talked about Mark Skinner, that's what he said. He said that's the only league that carries on playing during the Olympics, World Cup, because Norway and Sweden play around the same time as America. So they've got the same schedule as you guys, and they finish in January. But they shut down. If there's a World Cup, they know that all their players are going to go, and they're going to lose a lot of players, and they shut it down.
More people. Yeah. We got more people. We got more players. We got, they sign them to individual contracts. So honestly, it gives people, I mean, think about Bethany Balcer. Bethany Balcer did not go to a high name, like a Stanford or UNC or University of Portland. She didn't go to that. She went to a junior college. Okay. And she went to I think it was a tryout. They have open tryouts, and she won, and she got looked at in an open tryout and earned a job, as a bencher,
So where was she at? What team she at?
She's like one of the leading scorers for the OL Reign, Bethany Balcer. I mean, she's like, if you want a movie story, like one of those good feel stories type thing, it's she's like that kind of player, because you know what? You know how she made her mark? She made her mark when the women were at the World Cup. When they were at the World Cup, she was tearing up the NWSL, and the OL Reign did not lose any spots. And that's what happens, is they have the opportunity, to kill it at that point.
Yeah. I want to talk about OL Reign, because that's Leon. And if you know of Leon in the Europe,
they're keeping all their Leon players.
They buy all the best players.
Did you see what happened when they started? All these Leon players, these all-stars from Europe, come over and they lose. So you know what they do? They fire the head coach. So now you've got who's it? Laura Harvey coming back. Okay, they had an assistant. Laura Harvey's in Tokyo, going, okay, we'll kick the crap out of people, it's like, let's go get them, and I love her. She's awesome. She's an awesome coach, and I don't ever want her to go back to England, frankly. But
what I will say about is the top players that you're talking about. Sarah Buhadi, the keeper, she was never top. So I don't know how she made it so long at Leon. But what's her face is now scoring a lot of goals though.
Finally. She finally cracked it.
And the other one,
the blonde. She had blonde hair.
Yeah. And
look up the roster.
Morizan.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is you had everybody. You had all-stars against Racing Louisville. And Racing Louisville's just running circles around them. It's like, all of a sudden it's like, oh, how do you play this game here? Or do we play this game here? And sometimes they just don't get it, So
Emma's saying something here. She wanted Laura Harvey for the United job. What do you think about that?
Yeah, she would be good. I'll tell you, who's going to be a fabulous coach if she ever gets the opportunity is Amy Lapelvic. She was defensive back, I guess. The one, she's like an Amy T position. Okay, for the U.S. national team, won gold in London and won silver in the World Cup when we lost in the shootout against Japan. And she was assistant coach under Laura Harvey at Utah. And then when Harvey left, did Harvey leave? Well, she ended up getting promoted up. Okay, when Harvey left for the U.S. Soccer. And they hired somebody else. They hired somebody else to replace Harvey. And he got fired because he was an idiot and an asshat. Okay. And so they promoted her up. And I noticed it was very visible that the players were playing better together, when she was the head coach, when she was what you call the manager. We call them head coaches. So when she was in charge, they played better together. They had more of a plan of how they were going to break down the other team, and they just did better. And then they moved to Kansas City and she didn't get a look at. And I was pissed because she's going to be awesome.
So, Marty, I want to ask you one thing. And I think a lot of people in Europe won't understand this. I don't understand it. No relegation. Talk to me. What?
Are you kidding? We're trying to build the league. The last thing you want to do is throw them, down into the minors where we really technically we have it, but nobody really knows we have it unless you're really into it, and then it's there, it exists. It's like, okay, Major League Baseball has the minor leagues. Okay, they have AAA and they have AA and they have single A. Okay, if you go to a single A ball game, the third inning comes around 11 o'clock at night. The game starts at 7, and it's because nobody can hit the ball, nobody can pitch the ball. Okay, and if they hit the ball, nobody can field the ball. Okay, because they're single A, right? So the women's soccer does have a league for them to play in, so they can, sort of get interested and be there and everything. But pretty much it's not visible. And the only reason you know about it is because you really follow the sport avidly. Okay, like essentially you're a sports nut and you really look into every little thing, and so it exists. However, if you send a team down, it's not like they play anybody else. And in the United States, when you literally have to fly in a plane to go to a match, you're not going to get it. Happen.
Right. Okay. So that's I understand now. The one thing I don't understand as well. Yeah. Oh, can you hear me? Maybe I went. Who knows?
So you have 10 teams. They're spread across the entire United States. So if you have a match, you have to get in an airplane and fly to the match. You don't get in a car. You don't get in a bus. You don't take the train. You have to fly. So essentially, you can't have a relegation. Plus the fact nobody would ever support it. They're going to be like, what's a relegation? They don't understand it when they look at the Premier League, they still don't get it. That's like saying in the NFL that the worst team in the league is going to go back to college and play NCAA ball. That's not happening, and you're going to pay for them. You're going to pay them. It's like, the salaries in the NWSL are pretty pitiful as it is, comparatively speaking to, say, other sports. So economically, wouldn't be favored. That's why we have parity. So we can't have relegation. Yeah. We have parity. Okay. If you are bad, you get the first pick in the next draft.
NWSL, based on success. You're successful, you go to the playoffs. If you don't, you're rubbish. Talk to me. Playoffs, what happens? I don't understand. The league splits in half. What happens with the bottom half?
So they had a new collective bargaining agreement. And so the first 2 teams who finish first and second, you get a bye into the semis. Okay. Which is different than in previous years. Then the next 4 teams are going to battle for the playoffs. Okay. And so the last 4 teams, they go home. They pack their bags. They go home. So
their season ends on the
last day.
It's finished.
Yeah, their season ends. They clean their lockers. There's no tournament. Now they do have a challenge cup, a couple of challenge cups in the year, type thing. They had it to warm up, and they're planning something else. But for the most part, they're done. Okay. So pretty much everybody's fighting to get into that 6th spot. And so you have Gotham, Orlando, Chicago, and Washington. But the difference between all the teams, except for Kansas City, which has only got 7 points, is pretty tight. Washington is 19 points, or OL Reign is 19 points, but they're differing on, and they played the same number of games, but they're differing on goal differential. So it's really, really tight. The Dash are only 1 point off. They're at 18. I'd say the only 2 that are in a little bit of trouble is Racing Louisville and Kansas City, So, but Portland has 29 points. North Carolina has 24. Gotham is 21. Orlando has 21. So those are tied. What is this? What I do not get is that win the league that has come first is not as prestigious as win the playoffs. That is true. That's true. It's like, so you can be first in the league and then still lose in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then do you get a trophy for finishing first in the league? No.
You get what's called a shield.
Okay.
And that allows you, you know how like the US, they have stars in the national team?
Yeah.
They have stars as to how many World Cups they win, and they wear the emblem on their uniforms, and that's what you earn. You have the right to earn the emblem because you won the World Cup, and then you have the number of stars that your country won the World Cup. Okay, well, that happens in the NWSL. Like, you look at Portland Thorns, they have 2 stars. Okay, the Courage has either 2 or 3 stars. Okay, because the Courage originally came from West New York. Okay, they were the West New York, I can't remember what their name was back up there, but that was the reason they were located there, was because Amy Wambach was from Rochester. Okay, and she was from Rochester, and she was such a rocking soccer player that people would come from all over just to see her. Okay, so these are strategically placed based on like Mia Hamm and UNC. That's why North Carolina actually got a bid. You see what I mean? So it's not.
I don't understand what this means.
Thank you, Western New York Flash. Thank you, Julia.
Yeah.
Glad you popped in.
She's watching.
She's who I'm going to the Spirit match with on Sunday.
Oh, okay. Spirit versus Orlando.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you've got to shout for Amy. You got to shout for Amy, yeah?
Yes.
And then say,
I'm going to wear my
she'll know.
United shirt. You know, and hopefully she'll notice.
And she'll then just go, Barmy Army, and she'll be like, Barmy Army. She'll know. Don't worry about that.
But Cindy LaRue's kicking butt. She's number 1 on the goals, and she's been awesome.
So you get the stars for winning the cup, and you get the shields for finishing first. Is that what you're saying? Okay, I understand that.
And you get the stars on the Portland. You get something. You get the shields for winning the league, and then you get the stars for winning the playoffs.
Playoffs, okay? Yeah.
So now, in some cases, you win both. You get the top. You finish first, and you win the playoffs. But in other cases, you don't. You really don't. Like one time, North Carolina finished first. I think Portland kicked their butts and won and beat them. So, it happens.
Yeah. I mean, we have the playoffs in England. It's in the championship. So it's
so many tournaments.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I could not keep up with all those tournaments. And I'm like, then you have cups
cup games.
And then they start this, but they're not going to finish until next season. And I'm sorry.
COVID.
You guys were explaining to me, and I was always lost.
That's COVID. That never happens usually, Marty. That's COVID. COVID messed that up. But hey, questions. Thoughts on Jodie Taylor?
Oh, Jodie Taylor. She's got new life in Florida. I'm not exactly sure what happened in the rain, whether it was a request on her part or they were revamping and a lot of stuff because of the new ownership that went from, the previous owners to now Lyon. But she was out in Lyon. She was, she got the trade out to Lyon. And then when she came back, she didn't return to OL Reign, which is where, honestly, I thought it would be. She ended up going to Orlando, which was fine for Orlando because she is kicking butt down there. She is doing really, really well. So
Retirement FC.
I don't know what retirement FC means.
She means that everyone goes to Orlando to retire. Well, we'll move on.
Yeah, it could be, except if you walked up to Marta and told her that, I think Marta would probably put you on your butt.
Yeah.
She would put you on your butt.
From Jackie, what do you think about this? Canada starting a women's league.
I think, they have been speculating that the next expansion after the San Diego LA expansion would be in Canada. And it's not unusual for Canada to be a part of a US-based league because the Major League Baseball, we had the Toronto Blue Jays, we had the Montreal Expos. For hockey, it was the Canadian, NHL, mostly Canadian teams, and then they were started American teams. And then as the economics in Canada, went down, the economics in the US went up. If you think Canada is starting their own single women's league, economically, I do not believe that would survive. I do think it would survive if they had expansion teams as part of the NWSL. I do not believe
2 or 3 teams from Canada
to economically support teams on a league on their own, because you'd have to have a minimum of, say, 6 teams to start with.
Yeah. Does men's soccer play in the NWSL in Canada, or does men?
You mean the MLS?
MLS, yeah.
MLS.
Or are they part of?
No idea whatsoever.
No,
I do not follow them. I know they exist. Like, I know some of the names, like it's the Portland Timbers and the Houston Dynamo, and they're associated with the women's, And you know what? I am very, very happy with, and it keeps my brain from frying, is the fact that in the US, we have team names and they're not the same as the men's team. Okay. It drives me absolutely bat crap crazy when I see Manchester United and it's not the women's team they're talking about, it's the men's team you're talking about, but I can't figure it out because they don't give them different names. Like, how come? Like, it would be so much easier to follow.
I support this. I just support the badge. There are different things.
I don't care about the guys. I love Cavani, but
I love Cavani.
I like his bow and arrow bit.
Yeah, but listen, there are different teams, and we're starting to see that a bit. There's Durham who stand alone in them, and they've not got a men's team. So there are different teams. There's London Bees, and it's Barnet. So there are different teams. Don't worry.
Yeah.
One team, one dream.
You have a lot more support in terms of people, and in terms of people willing to go. I mean, how many sporting leagues do you have in the UK?
In terms of football, yeah.
You got football. No. You have football.
Yeah.
Then you have cricket.
Yeah.
Then you have the standing basketball thingy.
Rugby.
What?
Rugby,
you have rugby.
Which is
that's 3.
Yeah.
No, my
tennis.
husband played rugby, but he played Australian rules.
Oh, right.
Yes,
tennis.
But is tennis a league that you could go see teams?
No.
Like the Castles, like the Washington Castles? No. Okay, so tennis doesn't count because that's a tournament in Wimbledon.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm saying is in the U.S. you have Major League Baseball, you got the NBA, you've got the WNBA, you've got the NHL, you've got the NFL, okay? And then you've got MLS, and then you've got the NWSL. So you have a number of leagues. And you have a number of seasons. And I'm probably missing a bunch too. So it's not as easy as just saying, okay, well, we're just going to do this. It's like you got to get the people involved. You got to get the people attracted to it. I went to a match for the Spirit play in Utah. I saw Kristen Pless play, okay? And we were up in Maryland. I drove 2 hours to get there, okay, in traffic, in rush hour traffic, which is, I don't know, my kids said something when they were little. They're like, why do they call it rush hour when really nobody's going anywhere? You can't go anywhere because there's just so many cars on the road. And it was just bleachers. It was just bleachers. It was a little stadium, it was like a football field, but it was a soccer field. And it was just bleachers there, okay? That was 2 years ago. Now I'm going to go see the Spirit play, and they're going to be playing Audi Field, which is the huge sports complex that they built down at the harbor in D.C. that the D.C. United play in, okay? So women's soccer in the United States is actually making a lot of progress and is really moving forward. But in order to keep it moving forward, we maintain parity. We have to get the jerks of the league out. We have to identify and not put up with the crap, okay, as females. And then when we find them, we actually have to do something and act upon it. And we can't just find them. We have to kick them out of there. So
well, that's what I wanted to come on to. That's what I always see. I always see people talking about this is going wrong and this happened, and there was a guy who abused a load of his players. I can't remember which team he was in, but it's recently come out. I don't know if you've seen it.
Head coach of the Spirit.
And then there was
just came out.
The girl
Richie Burke,
who was sort of racially profiled earlier on in the year. I can't remember which team she was playing for. I think it was a mixed race girl, and she was against the Dash. I don't know who she was playing for, but she said she went over to see her boyfriend.
Oh, yeah, I know that one. What happened is Gotham's head coach said something. Sarah Gordon, who plays for Chicago, okay, she was trying to do something, and whoever they wouldn't let her go where she wanted to go.
Yeah.
And my understanding is they just didn't realize she was a player, but they didn't treat her well. Okay. Even if you're not a player, you shouldn't have been treated the way this person got treated. In fact, if you were a customer, that's even worse. Okay. And so the manager, the head coach of Gotham, spoke out at it, and she got fired. Okay. And the reason she got fired was because there is a rule and it's not just the NWSL, it's in pretty much all sports leagues that are run in the United States, is essentially if you're in management, you keep your freaking mouth shut about criticism. You just keep it shut. You don't give somebody a soundbite. You don't be televised, you don't be in the papers, and you don't come out with comments. And Paul Riley said the same thing. Well, he didn't see the same thing. What he said is he came out with a comment, and the reason he got fined for it, and it had to do with weight of exactly what they were saying, what the topic was. Yeah. And so that's what they think, that she lost her job. And I'm pretty annoyed about that because Gotham sucked. I mean, they were bottom of the barrel, like like swimming with the fishes team. Okay. And she stepped in and she made that team. She made the players' locker rooms, just facilities so much better for the players. She changed the attitude of the entire team. She really turned it around 180 degrees, that now Gotham is really being a force in the league. Okay. And really, take it to task of people. And then they turn around and, she opened her mouth in not a great way and should have responded as opposed to reacted. And she's out. And I think that is just such a waste of talent because she actually did something that was phenomenal. The Utah owner, I got no problems. They finally nailed it down, figured out exactly what he was, shut him down, and kicked his ass out of there. What's the problem with that? They got great owners in Kansas City. Okay. They've got really, really excellent owners in Kansas City. They play in Kansas. Okay. You don't understand. Kansas City, Missouri is right across the river from Kansas City, Kansas. Okay. And when teams are from Kansas City, they're never from Kansas. They're always from Missouri. Okay. So this is really an honest to gosh team that plays in Kansas City, Kansas. And I think that's awesome. They play on grass. They're not BSing the players and making them play on AstroTurf. They've given them a damn good stadium. Portland, the drawback of Portland is they will never have national team matches because they don't play on grass. They play on this artificial, bouncy, rubbery stuff that they have. But you're not going to have a World Cup there. You're not going to have a national team. You're not going to have CONCACAF there. You can't have a tournament there. You can't have an international tournament there because you don't have grass.
What I will say, Marty, is my ex-gaffer, I think she's going to get in trouble because if she's not able to say, I think in England, and I'm sure you noticed, she'll say everything. She thinks she won't keep her mouth shut. She'll say this is wrong and this pitch is wrong.
The one who opened her mouth wasn't the head coach. Yeah. She was the general manager. She was up in management. Okay, the head coach can spout off. Paul Riley spouted off, and he got fined. It'll cost Casey money, but it won't cost her job. and she'll get pretty swift with that. They still need, and Jill Ellis will coach it, because Jill Ellis was wonderful when it came to negotiating with the, working our way around the mic, It's truly. I want to know where Dawn Scott shows up, because I wouldn't be surprised if she ends up in San Diego, and that would be fabulous.
Right, Marty, it's coming to the end. Is there anything that you want to say anymore about potentially, if like someone like me, why I should sit up and watch the NWSL, and if there's any teams that you think, Natalie, Man United fan, this team is like Man United, or this team
I think you
watch.
find a lot of rough jewels in the NWSL. Like people who normally you wouldn't. I mean, you have an eye for talented players. You truly have an eye for talented players. And there are a lot of players from South America to come up. There are a lot of Canadians. I mean, everybody was like, I got into a discussion with somebody who weren't you surprised that Canada won? Because they haven't won in 20 years against the U.S. And I'm like, no. I said, if anything, they should have won sooner, because their talent is unbelievable. It's off the charts in terms of who they have, their pool of talent. So, I look at the NWSL as being mining for diamonds, because you're going to find a lot. Like the U.S. national teams, you're going to see Carly Lloyd announced her retirement. You're going to have a bit more national, retirements, or decisions that, they only play part-time, because they have other interests. They started their own businesses. They're CEOs. They're spokesmen. They're spokespeople. If Megan Rapinoe ran for office, she would win. Okay. I mean, that's that sees a bet. The only thing that I will say is I do agree the commentary needs to be a little bit better, and our reffing sucks. We need better refereeing. Okay.
Well, I think that's the case.
It's mining for diamonds.
Yeah.
You've got really good players, and it's and these are players that you haven't seen. I remember Leah Galton when she played here, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I remember her. So you have a lot of players who have been here for a little while, and it's not a bad thing to see, the same game played, in slightly a different way. Just turn it on its head a little bit, You might get an advantage to people who've never seen it.
Yeah.
So it's really good. It's really good technique.
That's why I'm doing these shows, just to teach people a bit, and hopefully people will start watching different. I think we've introduced them a bit. Well, you have. I've just come along for the ride.
Well, the only annoyance I have is their time management, because they invariably have a game starting, and then a half hour later they got another game starting, and then I'm on the East Coast, so the West Coast games don't start till 10 at night. Okay, so I only make it to the first half, and then I have to play it again. But the one thing that is awesome, and this is the best thing I've ever seen, is that every single match is available on replay for free. Yeah. It's available. So you could watch anything or any match, or pick a match. Like the Dash beat Portland not that long ago. And I woke up to it in the morning, and I was like, oh, okay, I got to see that. I still haven't been able to see it due to my schedule, but eventually I will, and I know I can. So
never start on kickoff times. That's the time management. That's what they need to improve.
Yeah, we're not the UK.
Yeah. Boom. Kick
we're
off.
Definitely not the UK.
Get in an hour before. Right.
We're like it's a ballpark time. So.
Yeah,
Thanks for inviting me.
It's okay. You're welcome back on. Tomorrow we're all in Scotland. So Marty, if you've got your MUTV still, turn it on. 5 p.m. UK time. Turn on your MUTV. You'll see the fans. You'll see the flags. You'll hear the songs. It's real life. And then I think we're going to come on YouTube. Me, John, Matt, Ben, whoever's about. Emma can come on. John's in there saying thank you. Go sleep. Scotland's waiting. Yep. You'll see us after the game. We'll do a little preview. So definitely tune into All for United, and you'll see us and hear our opinions straight away after. So thanks, Marty. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and watch tomorrow. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks for